Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience while I got my administrative stuff together up here. If you would please join us by standing for the invocation of the pledge.
Lord, please bless everybody in the world dealing with health issues, specifically with the coronavirus. Please bless those serving in our military here and abroad, and also be with our first responders as they protect us day in and day out. Bless us as we make decisions tonight for the betterment of this community. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting order, Madam Clerk, will be a roll call, please.
Councilmember Doherty?
Here.
Councilmember Demont? Here. Councilmember Golding? Here. Councilmember Hoffman? Here. Councilmember Nichols?
Here.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Here.
Mayor Latham?
Here. And item 37, please.
I move that we approve the minutes of the council briefing held on February 17th, 2020.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Goldman.
The section of the minutes on page 2 where Mr. Shadow was talking about the options for the gate, I would like to suggest that we amend these minutes to include that, because I went back and listened to the minutes again, or listened to the meeting again, but I think it's important to include something to the effect that Mr. Shadow said that the police department said that they would not use the gate, because I think that's important information to have documented. So I would like to make a motion that we amend the minutes to include that the Jacks Beach Police Department indicated that they would not be using the gate at all.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And any more comments on the amended motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By your action, motion carries. Number 38.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 17th, 2020.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Dumont.
We are missing someone from the courtesy of the floors to visitors. There's a gentleman who had 2 cards, and he gave me 3 minutes to speak on both the issues, but that's not here. In the last meeting, there was a gentleman who had 2 issues, 2 different cards, but you only gave him 3 minutes to speak, and he had to speak to them both on the third. He's not one of these. I know these 3 people. Who else I can get those?
Okay. Madam Clerk, please. Okay.
It was Mr. Kamirsak,
Right.
or Kazmirsak. That was the gentleman.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
And he did do both in 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor with a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By your action, motion carries. Announcements. Ms. Hoffman.
I just wanted to put a little plug in for the Beaches Museum. March is Women's History Month, and 2020 is the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment. So we have a month-long series of programming with regards to women's history starting tomorrow. We have 3 events this week. 2 of them are catered by Gregory Paul, so I'm not going to tell you which ones. But if you want to know, there's some great food. Come on out. They're all on our website.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Golding.
I'd like to let everyone know in the audience who might be interested that 18th Avenue North is going to be closed beginning March 6th at 5 o'clock till March 15th at 8 p.m. FDOT is doing the drainage project, and that's affecting the whole north end of Jacks Beach up there. And this is spring break, so they're closing the street to get some work done at the bridge there at 18th Avenue North. I want to thank our new communications manager for putting that on the website. So now we've got a lot of great information going up on the website like that. You can actually go to the website under the news and see a map of the detour route that FDOT is proposing. So thanks to Jacob for doing that. And then also in the same vein, We will be having a newsletter soon, and so you can also sign up for that. Jacob's going to be doing that. I don't know when we'll have the first newsletter, but I encourage you to sign up, because then that way you can get updates about important things that are going on in Jax Beach, and you don't have to go to the website to try to find it. It'll actually be pushed out to you in an email. You can go to government, to the tab government, and then there's a social media. In the drop-down, go to social media, and then there's the place to sign up for the newsletter. So thank you, Jacob, for doing that as well. I'm looking forward to getting the newsletter, and I hope you all sign up.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Just to add to that, we do have a sign-up sheet over here where the agendas are, if you want to go ahead and sign up also.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for yeah, go ahead. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Florida statutes, I'm required to advise the entity, this body, that I desire the advice from the council concerning litigation. And I'm making that announcement tonight, requesting the council that I seek their advice with respect to the litigation identified as SLG Investment Partnership, LLP, and Clear Channel Outdoor, Inc. versus the City of Jacksonville Beach, case number 2018 AP 00121. And I seek advice from the City Council. The subject matter of the meeting, the attorney-client session meeting, will be confined to the settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to that litigation expenditures. And I request that the council hold the attorney-client special session on Monday, April 6th, beginning at 6:20 here at City Hall. And if council approves, we of course will timely provide notice pursuant to the statute.
Could you repeat the date, please?
Yes, sir. Special session for Monday, April 6th at 6:20 p.m. City Hall.
Do you need a motion on that?
It's actually, I don't need a motion because it doesn't call for a motion. It just calls for me to publicly announce that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from announcements? Just one quick one. Most of you know that I think pretty much the whole council up here has been in a war with the legislature about short-term rentals, where people or LLCs are coming in the neighborhoods buying homes and making them available to occupancy rates as high as 18 people. Found out today that in the Senate Rules Committee, which was the last committee for the companion bill to go through, it was TP, which means that it more than likely is going to be held up. TP means, temporarily postponed. So it's probably going to be next year again before it's brought up. And I know I'm going to work really hard to get the legislature together with League of Mayors and League of Cities, so that we're working on a compromise draft this year instead of working on something that's coming from lobbyists. So anyway, that's good news for us, hopefully. Okay, courtesy of the floor, I have one non-agenda item, and that's for Chet Stokes. Chet, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Chet Stokes, 142 33rd Avenue South. I was listening to the briefing on the golf course today, and the only thing that I would like for y'all to consider is bringing back a lighted driving range. I used to use it all the time, and since we did the renovation, it's not as readily available, and with the new ball machine, that could change. So I'd like for y'all to consider bringing back the lighted driving range. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Chet. Appreciate it. And that's all I have. All the other cards are tied to the agenda items, so we're moving on to item 39. Greg Ryder, if you come forward with whoever from your family or team that you'd like to bring with you.
Whereas Gregory Pauls has been owned and operated by Greg Ryder since February 24th of 2010, and whereas Gregory Pauls contributed to Jacksonville Beach beautification by purchasing and remodeling an older seaside cottage in which to operate his business, and whereas Gregory Pauls has consistently supported local nonprofit organizations within Jacksonville Beach, and whereas Gregory Pauls is one of Jacksonville Beach's most iconic catering brands, and whereas Gregory Pauls has always been an inviting establishment providing fresh, delicious home cooking for Jacksonville Beach residents and visitors. And whereas today we celebrate their 10th anniversary. Now therefore I, William T. Latham, Mayor of the City of Jacksonville Beach, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim February 24th, 2020 as Gregory Paul's Day.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 4040, City Manager, you prepared to introduce this item?
Actually, I'll turn it over to the city attorney.
Are we on 039?
We're on 040.
Oh, that's the amended.
Yep, on the agenda. I'll go ahead and just take the intro on it.
Okay.
This is a request for approval of a professional legal services agreement with the law firm of Lewis, Longman & Walker to provide primary and alternate special magistrate services to the city of Jacksonville Beach. You all heard in the briefing about the fact that this one firm can provide both services to us, both the primary and the backup. The rates are deemed reasonable, the terms and conditions are favorable, and the city attorney is here to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Any questions of the council? Beg your pardon, need a motion now.
I move that we approve a professional legal services agreement with the law firm Lewis, Longman, Walker, PA to provide primary and alternate special magistrate services to the city.
Second.
Got a motion second, now any debate from the council. Ms. Dumont?
Thank you. With the amount of monies that we budgeted for legal services, how does this fall in line with that? When we go into the line items and the magistrates and the backups? Because I know when we decided to go in-house with the city attorney, we had a lot of discussions about what you can and can't do and contracting out. So just budget-wise, how does this align with what we already have budgeting? Are we going to have to do a mid-year modification?
That's a more city manager.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll let the deputy city manager handle
And,
this.
yeah, Karen Nelson, Deputy City Manager, in addition to what we budgeted for the annual salary for the city attorney, we also have in the budget additional funding for special magistrates, labor attorneys, and various other specialty type attorney services.
And it fits within that amount.
It does fit within that amount.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Devon?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldie?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And city manager number 41.
This is seeking authorization to enter into a professional legal services agreement with Carr Allison, and this is specifically to provide risk protection order support to the police department. Risk protection orders is something that's relatively new that has been the responsibility placed upon local governments of basically having to seek through the court system the ability to take firearms away from people if so deemed. We do not possess the expertise to do that, which is why we're looking for outside counsel to provide us that assistance. The city attorney can answer any specific questions as to what an RPO is and how the process would work.
Any questions from the council, comments? I beg your pardon, still getting used to this new system. Need a motion, please.
I move that we approve a professional legal services agreement with Carr Allison to provide legal services to the police department for risk protection order cases.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. The floor is open to the council for debate. Mr. Dumont?
Same question as before, is this already budgeted in the police department's budget? I take it this is going to be for the police department? Or will this come out of administrative?
Legal services. So to save some time, the next two questions, if the next two items bring the same question, the answer will be the same. We do have funds budgeted for all of these.
Okay, great, thank you.
Karen, would you just name and position for the record, please?
Karen Nelson, Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Devon?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang,
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes. City Manager number 42.
Number 42 is seeking to enter into an agreement with law firm Shepard Smith, Kohlmeyer and Hand. You may recall that a couple briefings ago, we had Cliff Shepard from this firm actually present to both the CRA and the City Council at the concurrent briefing to take a look at doing some work for the city related to the CRA. We additionally have the need to do charter review work at the direction of the City Council. Phase 1, which is to make some minor changes in advance of the November election, and Phase 2 to be a full charter review starting immediately thereafter. This agreement would effectively put this firm in the position that if they are successful on the Phase 1 project, we could proceed with a Phase 2 project, which would be a full charter review. Again, the city attorney was the one who solicited different proposals and scopes, and he's here to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Do you want a motion? I'm just gonna start making them.
Yeah, there you go. Jump in there.
I move that we approve a professional legal services agreement with the law firm Shepard Smith, Kohlmeyer and Hand, PA, to provide legal services to the city for charter review phases 1 and 2 projects.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and the floor is open for debate from the council. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang,
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes, and city manager number 43.
Number 43 is entering into a separate scope of work with the same firm, Shepard Smith, Kohlmeyer and Hand, except this is to work specifically with the CRA to consolidate all of the existing and outstanding plans into one representative plan going forward. This is something that the CRA director has discussed with the CRA board, and they are in the affirmative to move forward with this particular project. And again, the city attorney and the CRA director are here if you have any questions for them.
I move that we approve the CRA to employ the firm of Shepard Smith, Kohlmeyer and Hand, PA, to perform a consolidation of the 1987 Downtown Community Redevelopment Plan and subsequent amendments thereto on a cost-plus basis not to exceed $32,000.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and we do have one speaker card. Gary Paytow has waived in support of this amendment, but does not wish to speak to the council, not amendment, an ordinance, but does not wish to speak in front of the council. So we're going to open the floor to the council to debate. Any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang,
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes. City manager number 44.
Number 44 seeks to award a bid for landscape maintenance for Beaches Energy Services. They do require maintenance around all of our different substation properties, covering all of our territories from Neptune Beach down into Ponte Vedra and through Jacksonville Beach. The bid tabulation is attached, and staff is here to answer any questions if you have them, along with Beaches Energy Director.
I move that we award bid number 1920-04 for lawn care and landscape maintenance to Chad Rock Enterprises as the primary contractor and Down to Earth as the secondary contractor.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, no speaker cards for this item, and I'm going to open the floor for the council for debate. Any questions or comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang,
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes. City manager number 45, please.
Number 45 is related to bid number 1920-01. Typically, if we were bringing a bid back to City Council, we would be requesting authorization to award the bid. In this particular instance, we are seeking council's authorization to reject all bids, which is something that you're allowed to do through our bidding process. This particular project came in substantially over our engineer's estimate and our budgeted dollar amount. As you can see by the bid tab that is attached, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder came in at $1.6 million, and our estimate was below $1 million. One of the things that we've identified is that the size of the well casing and some of the technical details that go along with it can probably be made materially smaller and still meet our needs and provide for an opportunity for a lot more firms to bid on this particular scope of work. So we are requesting that this particular bid, that all of the bids be rejected and that staff go back and redo the technical design and put the project back out on the street again for a rebid. And Public Works staff is here to answer any questions if you have them.
I move that we reject all bids for bid number 1920-01, the well number 16 construction and well number 11 abandonment project, and approve advertisement of a new RFP.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on public speaking cards and opening the floor to debate for the council. Any questions or comments from the council? Ms. Hoffman.
I'm just, a question about the road that's torn up by New Well number 16 project site. Is that going to remain torn up at this point, or is that going to get put back together while we wait for the new RFP? So let them know.
Dennis Barron, Director of Public Works. That's the same question that we were asked earlier this week from Ms. Golding. And the project right now is they're working on the next 3 weeks, tying over all the services and connecting all the side mains. Once they get that done, they pursue to have all that work, all that paving redone within the next 3 weeks.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, Mr. Stefanopoulos, number 46, please.
Number 46 seeks the acceptance of an easement for the installation of potable water servicing the new Whole Foods store that's being put in. Our Public Works staff is here if you have any questions related to this particular dedication.
I move that we accept the dedication to the city and acceptance for maintenance of the public infrastructure improvements by Regency Centers in the Pablo Plaza Shopping Center for the proposed Whole Foods store.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, Mr. Stefanopoulos, number 47.
This particular item is for a change order to the scope of work that's already being performed for Ocean Terrace Drainage Project down at the south side of the city in the South End CRA. One of the things that became evident to us at this point in this project is that as we're hearing from the community conversations about the need for connectivity throughout the community, that Jacksonville Drive in particular is a prime route that is utilized by everybody down by Sanctuary and America Avenue to come up towards that prime intersection to go either east to the beach, south to the commercial district, or north up to Sunshine Park. As such, the sidewalk that's currently located there on the north side of the road is deemed insufficient for multi-purpose use. We are seeking a change order so we can accommodate putting in an 8-foot wide multi-purpose path on either the south or north side of the road in order to provide better conveyance and safety for the pedestrians that use that walkway. And again, the CRA director and Public Works staff are here if you have any questions.
I move that we approve change order number 3 for the design of the 8-foot wide multi-purpose path as described in the attached scope of services for task work order number 2, Ocean Terrace Drainage Improvements Final Design Phase, change order number 3, 8-foot path at a cost of $28,132, including 15% contingency.
Second.
Got a motion and a second and 2 speaker cards for this item. First, Jim Sorrell. Jim, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Jim Sorrell, 1410 Poundwood Road, Jacks Beach. I like this idea, and I would like for you guys to consider to incorporating it whenever sidewalk repairs in the future may be done. Widening. The standard sidewalks now are not adequate with the amount of pedestrian traffic. You can't even have let's say a wheelchair and a person standing by them, they're so narrow. So I think this is a good idea, step in the right direction and going along. But what I want to point out to you is that one thing Jacksonville Beach has that no one else has is no bikes on the sidewalk. And I don't know why I can't tell you how this ordinance came about, but it's 31-5, and you may want to consider looking at this. No bikes on the sidewalk bikes on the sidewalk are allowed by the state statutes, and there's very strict rules, bicycle rules that have to be followed. And to my knowledge, we're the only community that has this no bikes on the sidewalk, and I'm only guessing that this is possibly because of our high-density area downtown, where we have a lot of beachgoers and whatever, and that would be a safety issue. But as far as the normal within our city, we may want to relook at that ordinance and change it to accommodate the rest of the city, because many of the thoroughfares like 10th Street North, Penman Road, and there's several all through the city that minors use and ride on it safely, going to school, playground, wherever they're going. So we may want to revisit this, because there are state statutes that are very, very strict about bikes on the sidewalk. And so I just want you to use this opportunity to inject that, because I don't know if you were aware that we do have a no bikes on sidewalk ordinance, and to my knowledge, we're the only one in the area that does. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Gary Paytown. Gary, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. Gary Paytown, 725 Bon Air Circle, Jacksonville Beach. I'm here in support of this specific resolution. I just want to point out a couple of things to council. Number one, this is the first opportunity, first development for a pedestrian walkway that goes east to west within the community. And with that being the case, I think we ought to take a real hard look at what we do here, so that it becomes the standard for everything that we do in the future for the east-west connectors that we've all been talking about, and we all agree are needed within the community. There are some interesting opportunities. Number one, this is only a small portion, taking you roughly from Sanctuary to South Beach Parkway. There's still a considerable distance to get to the beach, and we need to make sure that we complete this development. It just doesn't stop there and becomes more of an eyesore than anything else. There's part of it that's under the CRA, and the CRA should take care of that component, but the city needs to complete everything from where the CRA limitations are to the beach. And I hope that that's something that we undertake very quickly and make this a complete path all the way to the beach. And then secondly, there's an opportunity for us. The CRA owns the property at the southwest corner of Jacksonville Drive and South Beach. The city owns the property on the northwest corner of South Beach and Jacksonville Drive. An opportunity to do something in the way of a park or development, a garden, something different than just a lot of overgrown vegetation that we have there now. So let's make this a showcase. Let's somehow work together, CRA and the city, and make this a showcase for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay. I don't have any additional cards from the public, so we're moving to open the floor to debate for the council. Mr. Munn, I believe you're first.
Thank you. I agree with Gary and Jim. I saw this, and in the memo part, it said on the south side of Jacksonville Drive, where if you go to the east side of South Beach Parkway, the sidewalk's on the north side of Jacksonville Drive. There is no sidewalk on the south side of Jacksonville Drive. So I would say that we should put this multi-purpose path on the north side of Jacksonville Drive between South Beach Parkway and Grand Boulevard, and then the future phase. And I know that it's kind of tight right there, but we're going to actually make things more complicated for people on their bikes trying to get to the beach. And I would like to see in the near future, to connect South Beach Parkway to 3rd Street. And I like the idea of putting in the multi-purpose path between 3rd and the beach, but that is far more complex than we're going to go into here. it's been a couple of years, and it's an extremely complex FDOT, it's bad. So I like the like I said, I like that, but it really should be on the north side for continuity's sake. To make it easier for people to get from the ditch to the beach and then for themselves after the 3rd.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Golding?
So I was going to ask the same question, if somebody could explain why we would have the sidewalk on one side and one part of one segment and on the other side with the other segment. So maybe somebody can explain that. But also too, I just wanted to make a statement with regard to what Mr. Sherrill said about bicycles on sidewalks. This came up several months ago when there was an issue in my district with a student that was going to Fletcher High School and riding their bicycle on the sidewalk, and they got hit by a car when they went out into the four-way stop. But I talked to the police department and asked about the ordinance that said that bicycles are not allowed on the sidewalk, and the police department said that they do not enforce that because they want our students to be riding on the sidewalk instead of in the street. So this is probably something we need to look at changing, not only for that reason, but also because we do want to have more of these bike ped paths in our community. So I definitely want to encourage us to look at this going forward. But I'm also glad to hear that our police department is not enforcing that because they're doing the right thing. But if somebody could explain the path and why we have a path on two different sides of the road.
Okay, Dennis Barron, Public Works Director again. We are still looking at the north side. However, our initial evaluation shows that there's not enough room for an 8-foot path on that north side. So that the idea is if we're going to really concentrate on making this a multi-use corridor, that 8-foot has to trump the feasibility of putting it on the north side. If we're going to put it on the north side and we're going to make it a 6-foot or a 5-foot, then we kind of lose the idea of having it be a multi-use path and it has to go back to a normal sidewalk. North side is not necessarily out, but I know we're also working with Beaches Energy as well because there's some poles on the south side that are kind of be worked in and accommodated with our sidewalk as we go through this process so that they can do their stuff in the future and we can still benefit from that 8-foot path. So the initial observation is 8-foot fits better on the south side, and when you being able to cross at a lighted intersection, you have a better ability to be able to cross the street to get to the north side to alleviate that jockeying.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't just continue on the south side, on the eastern side of South Beach Parkway?
We haven't looked at that corridor beyond exactly the scope of where we're at, so I'm sure we're looking at how we're going to continue. I mean, one of the directives we seem to be focusing on in Public Works is that intermodal connectivity, whether that's bicycles, whether that's people walking, strollers, coolers, whatever people are doing to move around, east, west, north, south, that's what we got to try to concern with. So yeah, by no means do we want to just put a phantom piece of sidewalk to get from here to there and not have any further connectivity. So we're going to be looking at how do we connect that continuing on east and as well as on west as far as we can within the limits.
And so, Bill, you were shaking your head. Is there a reason why we wouldn't put it on the south side, east of South Beach Parkway?
Bill Meehan, Planning Director. One of the main reasons is there's not a pedestrian crossway on the south side of Jacksonville Drive at State Road A1A, and the State Road A1A and Jacksonville Drive intersection is a lot more complex and a lot busier than the Jacksonville Drive right-of-way. Number two, the north side of Jacksonville Drive between South Beach Parkway and A1A has sufficient room, either an extension of the width extension of the existing sidewalk or a demolition and reconstruction with only one driveway cut. And there's at least two residential driveway on the north side and two shopping center driveways on the south side. Back to the other issue about the north side, the north and the south side between Jacksonville Drive and America Avenue. One of the other reasons is we'd like to go to the south side is because of our driveway interferences on the north side, and we've got to keep an ADA grade, and it may be severely cutting into these people's yard to accommodate it. But if Cale can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're carrying the preliminary design of both options at least through 30%, so we'll get a little more of an engineering feedback. And the last is, regardless of which side of the road it comes up to Jacksonville Drive, thinking forward as come up from some of these community meetings, we've also got the opportunity to put an 8-foot path on the west side of South Beach Parkway to get up to South Beach Park and maybe up beyond to get to Osceola, which may be another east-west connector. So it's pieces of the puzzle starting to fit together. So I just want to know we have thought about it extensively.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Dumont.
That would mess with
Okay. Mr. Nichols.
Bill, I'm sorry, please. Two things, have they done a value engineering or anything to make a determination if the path is going to be asphalt or concrete? I know it refers to concrete in here, but is it cement concrete, asphalt concrete?
Not yet, and as far as I am from the contractor, but yeah, my professional preference would definitely be for concrete versus asphalt.
Okay, and then the second thing, would please coordinate with the city of Jacksonville with their tree mitigation program for the landscaping to try to lay out a way to go ahead and get some trees through that, for free through that, so we don't have to come back and do other stuff
Yeah,
later.
it'd be a great opportunity. Keep in mind, though, Beaches Energy does have that, the first section of Jack Drive that we're looking at.
There's overhead, but you can get some other shorter trees like we have out there that won't interfere with that. But I mean, it'd be nice to have some, canopy. It'd be able to get some canopy.
There could be an opportunity at the park, to the southwest corner of Jacksonville Drive and South Beach Parkway. If that ends up being a little pocket park, there's opportunity there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vogelsong.
I like the idea of the north side as well, just for free flowing. If we're going to expand the west side of South Beach Parkway and potentially make that 8 feet, if you continue the 8-foot path, it should just flow as it were like a circle.
But keep in mind, no disrespect at all, but keep in mind, we also have the potential to put a small passive park on the southwest corner. So either way, you've got people crossing that intersection. And it is a lit intersection with a marked crosswalk. And if it doesn't have pedestrian counters, they can surely be installed. So I understand there's just a lot of movement when you get to that intersection, whichever side of the road you're on. Some people may want to go to the shopping center, so they'll cross right there, go to the shopping center.
So I guess my thinking would be is the opportunity to just incorporate the sidewalk into the 8 feet. Because the sidewalk there now,
On the north side.
on the north side, we incorporate the sidewalk into the 8 feet rather than maintain a separate sidewalk.
Right, and one of the things that the 30% carrying forward design on the north side will do is to make sure we don't have 88, because you've got side slopes from the driveway and you've got a certain slope going down the hill. You've got to keep it ADA compliant, and we're not sure what that's going to do, eating in, whether it's into their yards or not, into the right of way in the front of the yard, or the side yards for the house.
What drive, you mean the roadway then? There's no driveways along Jacksonville Drive there.
On the north side, there are two at least.
At the entrance of the,
Between South
it's
Beach
at
Park
South
and
Beach
there.
Parkway, right? I see what you're saying.
Yes, sir, there's a couple.
On the east side, towards South Beach Parkway.
On the north side of Jacksonville Drive, west of South Beach Parkway,
Yes.
there's at least 2 residential driveways.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
So what,
Go ahead.
we approve this tonight, what comes back to us before the work gets done? Because like Mr. Paytow alluded to, I want to at least get an eye on this before it's finalized. Does it come back to us?
I'm not sure at what point that's, I'm going to defer to the engineering staff.
Cam Moore, Public Works Project Engineer. We, particularly because of this issue of evaluating the north side, and hopefully we can do it, we told them to do some form of a 30% deliverable. So we can, coordinate through the city manager and somehow, present something from that 30% deliverable to make sure everyone's comfortable. If we're going to the north side, there are going to be a few more issues, cutting in and getting the grades in front yards. So we would want to make sure everyone's comfortable with that if we run into some concerns that we want you guys okay with.
Are they doing the west side of South Beach Parkway as well now, or is that in the future? The 8-foot path on South Beach Parkway?
That is in the future. We are looking to see if there's some way we can coordinate it with that construction of that project. We expect to have a subsequent phase. This was primarily a drainage project, and we saw an opportunity to do some additional roadway, surface, and gutter and curb improvements. We hope and expect to have a subsequent smaller drainage project phase after this is completed, and with that we have the opportunity that's where we will do the construction on the remaining couple of blocks to get to sanctuary on this path, and we could hopefully work that other section of Jacksonville Drive in there. But we may be able to do it in the first one. We're looking at possibly just city engineering, using our own staff to engineer that, because it's hopefully reasonably straightforward to expand that existing sidewalk on that side.
I'd just say it's something I'd like to at least see, because it is an important aspect of starting the pathways of west to east as far as connectivity goes. So I think I agree with Mr. Payton. Let's bring it back to us again once we have some sort of drawing, but that's my 5 cents. Thanks.
Are you making a motion?
Does it need to be a motion? I don't think so.
No.
For us to see it before it goes. I don't think I need to make a motion, just my request.
Okay. Okay, next on the queue was Ms. Hoffman.
I just want to say, in theory, it's a great concept, and I'm excited to see us go in this direction, especially since it is so directly related to a lot of the feedback we've been hearing in our community vision meetings. So I definitely don't want to throw cold water on this direction, because I am very supportive of that. But when you really look at it in terms of the functionality, right now it's just an 8-foot wide 4-block swath of concrete, and I don't know or asphalt, whatever we said. I don't know if it's going to get used as much, because it's not, I know ultimately it would connect to America, but because it's not fully connected, but also because there's a sidewalk on the north side that is already what everybody is using in the meantime. So I would really be interested in seeing if the north side is possible, just for that interconnectivity. But thumbs up on the effort, because I really love to see us go in this direction.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Doherty?
Oh, thank you. I love the idea of the 8 feet wide paths. Just to add on to what people were saying, even if we could do a little bit on the north side, because you are going to have people transfer from the south to the north, so they cross South Beach. That little area where I'm talking about, just on the north side of the extreme east of the project, because you'll have people cross there to cross South Beach. But my question was, do we have a lighting plan for this? Because if we're trying to get people to use this, what's it like at night? It's pretty dimly lit now, isn't it? So do we have future plans for lights going in here, or is it just the concrete?
This portion of the design is just the concrete, and working it in with the current improvements, we would have to do, some kind of a follow-up or parallel project to look at the lighting.
That's a great concept. I mean, I'd like to see this, but like you said, up to Osceola, it'd be great to have that network in our city, but it has to be high level functionality, and people have to be able to use it at night. And that's one thing I would suggest, is we do start thinking of nighttime usage. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And before we go to Ms. Dumont, Bill, I think it was late 2014, 2015, early 2015, the TPO did a bike beds survey. Have we looked at that at all as we were putting all this together?
Not in relation to this project, no, sir. I'm aware of that study generally, but I don't know if it even identified that corridor specifically. I'll look into it. I've got access to that
Just
study.
might make sense to take a look at it. And if we need to request a revised bike bed survey, that'd be the time to do that too. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, revisit Ms. Dumont.
Thank you. Bill? Two little things. All right, north side of the road. I think when we're looking at this, and you say we have 8 feet, how much construction of this road, are we ripping up the whole road? Because they said in here you have
I don't know.
substantial drainage roadway and curbway. If we're ripping the whole thing up, there's no reason why we can't move the road down south a little bit more to make the sidewalk and the bike path on the north side of the road, and take away some of the land that we look at using right now on the south side of the road, put the road there.
Right.
Because I'm really looking at just the continuity between the east-west. So I don't think we should get stuck between the curbs.
There's also
I
a
think
geometry,
that's
there's also an alignment issue with Jacksonville Drive approaching South Beach Parkway from the west. as opposed to approaching it from the east, there's a slight
Right.
skew.
Oh, I know.
But I'm gonna let Kale talk to the level of demolition of the road, because I'm not sure if adjusting the center line of the road is part of this project or not.
I'm not the engineer, I don't want us to get stuck between the curves.
We,
I want us to think beyond the curves.
we actually originally started talking about that, and then, you know, when we were discussing this and scoping it and bouncing some things off of the consulting design firm, it kind of settled out that the south side solved a lot of problems, but this is, you know, we obviously have uncovered a lot more concern about that. So, so we do have the opportunity, I believe, to do some road realignment. You know, it adds to cost. Once again, we'll see how that flushes out and get your opinion of it at that time.
Yes,
You know, if we're realigning the road, maybe we could solve some other problems, but we're also putting more base and, you know, more cost. But, you know, if it's for a good cause and it makes sense.
This is something I would prefer to do right than cheap.
Sure.
We get one opportunity to get this done. We have a lot of people who live in that area that need to try and get to the beach. So let's do it right instead of just trying to figure out the cheapest, easiest possible way. And the other piece, and I was in contact with the city manager about the bikes, and we are looking, who was it, Gary? One of you guys. And I did put in a request that we relook at the ordinance on not allowing bikes on roads so that it actually aligns with how the police department implements it. And there's a backstory to it, I can tell you that. But that will be on the agenda soon for safety.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Stefopoulos.
Yeah, just wanted to speak to a couple things that were brought up, and I think as we got towards this, a few of them did get answered. The first is the bikes on the sidewalk. That was brought to my attention earlier this week, and that is something that I would like to bring back to this council to revisit. As you heard a little bit earlier from the police department, from the police chief, they're not enforcing the ordinance for not riding your bike on the sidewalk, because right now for a lot of locations in the city, that's the safest place to ride your bicycle. And if we're going to start creating an urban trail network and portions of our sidewalk will be oversized, it makes sense to allow that to occur. So we are planning on bringing that back to council. The second one is with regards to trees. And I know Councilor Nichols made reference to the fact that we should look at the tree program to get some trees along the sidewalk. I know that there are overhead lines there now, but there are future plans by Beaches Energy to look at this corridor for potential undergrounding. If that undergrounding occurs, then the trees can be placed in such a way that it doesn't interfere with underground utilities. That is something that we'll be looking at for the corridor, along with the potential for future lighting as well. As I think everybody heard, this originally started off as a drainage project with an opportunity to put in an oversized sidewalk. If the direction that we're hearing from council is that this needs to be done right on the first pass, we will make sure that as we get to the 30% conceptual designs and we're at a decision point of whether to go north or south side with the pathway and what the impacts of that would be, that's the time that we would bring that back to council to have a conversation with you to see if the additional cost is worth moving into the north side versus the south. Councilmember Doherty brought up what I was going to say, which is right now the north side gets all the use because that's where the sidewalk is. And it's only a 4-foot sidewalk, and everyone from the south side of Jacksonville Drive has to go across the street to get to the sidewalk. So whether it's on the north or the south, you will have residents that have to cross the street to get to the multi-purpose path. It would be a little bit easier from an alignment perspective to keep it on the north side of the road, so when they get to that intersection of South Beach Parkway, they can either go north or they can go east and cross the road without having to cross a second road. But it's not lost on me that you will still have people that want to go to the commercial district to the south, and they will have to cross an additional road of going over Jacksonville Drive. Let's see. That was it.
So is this an item that we're going to vote on and you're going to bring it back to us before?
That's correct. We'll give the clear direction to Public Works right now that as we get to the 30% design concept of both north and south sides of the road, at that 30% marker, we will come back to council, probably at a briefing to get input from you as to which option looks the most palatable going forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And Mr. Stefopoulos, number 48, please.
Let's see, I think we're major. All dispenser? Yeah, item 20-048 was pulled from the agenda earlier today. Hopefully you all got the email on that.
This wasn't on the amendment, that wasn't on the amended, so
No, I mean, okay.
got it.
That one will likely come back at the next council meeting.
48, I've got approve, disapprove the assignment assumption of commercial lease agreement for the golf course restaurant lease.
That's the one that has been removed from the agenda for tonight.
Okay, so we're going to look here at the Vol dispenser?
That's correct.
Okay, so number 49.
Number 49 is a recap from the briefing earlier tonight, where the golf course is looking to purchase a ball dispenser that people can use without having to go into the pro shop, and it would also eliminate the manpower that's currently utilized to bag all the balls and go around and collect all the individual bags. This machine will not take the old tokens that used to be in play, but instead will use multiple electronic forms of payment. And the golf course team is here if you have any additional questions for them.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from the council?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Oh,
I move that we approve the purchase of a ball dispenser for the driving range from Range Servant America Incorporated in the amount of $22,572, as described in the memorandum from the golf course facility manager dated February 18th, 2020.
Second.
got a motion and a second, no public speaking cards, so the floor is open for debate. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And Mr. Stefopoulos, number 50.
Number 50 seeks approval of the final plat for a replat of properties that created a 4-unit townhouse residential subdivision. Public Works staff is here if you have any questions.
I move that we approve the attached final plat for the replat of lots 5 and 6, block 45 Atlantic Park, supporting a 4-unit townhouse residential subdivision.
Second.
Motion and a second, the floor is open to council for discussion and debate. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
No.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And Madam Clerk, please read resolution number 2052-2020 by title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, directing the city manager to place standard hospital emergency services wayfinding signs on city property to help the traveling general public locate the only licensed hospital emergency medical care facility located in the city, as defined by Section 395.002 Florida statutes, providing for legislative findings, council authority, public purposes, administrative assignment, delegation of responsibilities, conflicts, severability, and setting an effective date.
I do have a speaker card before the motion, and that's Joe Metrick. Joe, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Latham. I'm Joe Mitrick, the hospital president for Baptist Medical Center Beaches. We are on 1350 13th Avenue South in Jacksonville Beach. Just want to thank you for considering the resolution tonight, which will allow for our patients to have improved wayfinding to the hospital. Just very briefly, 32,000 patients come to our emergency department every year. 80% come by private vehicle. And so as you can imagine, that can be a stressful time for them to find a hospital, especially at night. In total, we have about 130,000 patients that come to the hospital, both inpatient, outpatient services, and many of those patients they have an illness or an injury, or under stress, or bringing their wife to deliver a baby, and so it's time where their speed is not speed, but getting there as quickly as possible is helpful. Also, many of our patients are visitors as well, and as you know, we've had over 2 million visitors to the city of Jacksonville Beach last year. We have, there's 4 projects underway right now with different hotels, and that'll add another 400 beds, and so it'll increase the need for those who are not familiar with the area to be able to find a hospital. So on behalf of our patients, We look forward to improved wayfinding, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Motion? I move that we adopt resolution number 2052-2020, directing and authorizing the city manager to place standard hospital emergency services wayfinding signs on city property to help the public locate the only licensed hospital emergency medical care facility in the city of Jacksonville Beach as defined by section 395.002 Florida statute.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Ms. Golden.
Mr. Stavropoulos, for the benefit of the public, could you just give a high-level overview of where we will be considering putting additional signage?
The signage that we're looking to install would basically be along corridors that are periphery to the hospital along major roadways. Going from north to south, we'd be looking at enhanced signage on Beach Boulevard, going from west to east. That would be enhanced signage at the intersection of the JTB and South Beach Parkway, pulling people in from south to north. There would be enhanced signage on A1A, both northbound from the south end of the city going north and southbound from Beach Boulevard, traversing south past Fire Station 1. And then there would be additional enhanced signage along the interior corridors of 9th Street and South Beach Parkway, leading people to 13th, which would be the primary entrance for the hospital. There's a multitude of locations that the city attorney, the planning director, the public works director, and myself, we met with Mr. Metrick and his attorney, and we literally walked through each of the corridors to make sure that we were all in alignment as to the locations and what type of signage should be in each spot.
Follow up, Ms. Golden?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for all of that work and for actually being able to come to a really good, settlement on this. And I'm really glad to see that we'll be using the MUTCD standard signs for this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, great compromise with a great amount of haste or speed, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. Madam Clerk, please read resolution number 2053-2020 by title only, please.
A resolution amending the City of Jacksonville Beach position classification and pay plan for managerial, professional, and administrative non-union positions effective March 2nd, 2020.
Move that we adopt resolution number 2053-2020, amending the position classification and pay plan for managerial, professional, administrative, non-union positions effective March 2nd, 2020, to add a regulatory compliance officer.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and we do have a card. No card. So we got a motion and a second. Open the floor to debate. Any comments or questions by the council? Any discussion for you, Mr. Stavropoulos? Okay, Madam Clerk, read the roll call, please.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, and Madam Clerk, please read ordinance number 2020-8134 for first reading, public hearing, by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 34, Article 8, Division 2, Section 34-3406 offenses of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to add a maximum height restriction for fences on residential zone properties fronting State Road A1A, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, severability, codification, and an effective date.
This ordinance for the amendment of the Land Development Code is before the council for a public hearing and consideration under its first reading. Under the laws of the state of Florida, an ordinance which changes the actual list of permitted, conditional, or prohibited uses within a zoning category, or which otherwise changes the text of the Land Development Code, is a quasi-legislative proceeding. The quasi-legislative proceeding means that the governing body is acting in its rulemaking capacity. It's the duty of the council to arrive at sound decisions regarding the use of property within the city. This includes receiving citizen input regarding proposed uses within the zoning category. The application has been reviewed by staff and the Planning Commission for consistency with other portions of the Land Development Code and a comprehensive plan. The council may hear from all interested parties in the legislative determination of an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code. The council's decision on the text amendment application is based on criteria set forth in section 34-211 of the Land Development Code. Each member of the council has been provided a copy of the criteria. I'll now open the public hearing for ordinance number 2020-8134. Is there any member from the public who would like to address this agenda item? If you would, ma'am, come forward, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Debbie Whittle. I live at 3477 3rd Street, South Jacksonville Beach. Came here tonight to ask you to consider allowing a 6-foot fence. Because we live on 3rd Street, it is a busy street. I've seen several crashes. We've only lived there for 3 years, and I've seen several crashes on 3rd. One was at Jacksonville Drive, and 3rd, somebody crashed into a fence. There's also another crash for a few by the gate station at 3rd and Osceola Boulevard, in which a bicyclist was killed. Traffic goes fast. Nobody adheres to a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on 3rd Street, and we're concerned that we may end up with a car in our driveway when ourselves or grandchildren are out in the front yard. We don't feel that the 4-foot fence really gives us enough security, privacy, and safety. Security reasons, we have a lot of homeless people around. We did end up having a gentleman come into our neighbor's garage, took a water bottle out of the refrigerator, and drank it in their driveway. It would be nice to have a little bit more security in that respect. If we have a 6-foot fence, it provides a little bit more security for us. Ponte Vedra, their zoning right now, they adopted it in March 2018. They do allow now people living on A1A, people to put up a 6-foot fence in the front of their property. And that's what we're asking to be considered. I know at one point somebody stated that it might be a problem for first responders finding our homes because of the fencing. And we actually have a lit sign at the end of our driveway that gives our address. And our neighbor has a sign at the end of his driveway with his address. And he could not be here tonight, but he did send a letter. I printed some pictures and provided his letter to you. His name is Ryan Benson, and he is in favor of this as well. He just could not be here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Will. Appreciate it. Anybody else from the public like to address this agenda item? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. And before requesting a motion on the ordinance, beginning with myself, each of the members is requested to indicate for the record both the names of persons and the substance of any ex parte communications regarding the application. An ex parte communication refers to any meeting or discussion with a person or a citizen who may have an interest in a decision which occurred outside the public hearing process. I've had none. Mr. Nichols?
I've had none.
I spoke with Debbie Whittle via email and by phone about this coming in front of the council tonight.
None.
None.
Have none.
None.
Okay. And then in that case, I'll be requesting a motion.
Move that we adopt ordinance number 2020-8134, amending Chapter 34, Land Development Code, Article 8, Division 2, Section 34-406, fences, to add a maximum height restriction for fences on residential zone properties fronting State Road A1A.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Before opening the floor to discussion or questions by the council, please be reminded that our decision will be based on the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, staff's report, the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and the public input at all hearings. This time we'll open the floor to council. And I don't know which one of you get first. I'm going to flip a coin. Let's do mine.
Thank you. I still have the same concerns that I had 2 weeks ago. One, that I don't feel that the information that went to the planning commission for them to provide their recommendation was accurate. Again, with the bushes being tall, with the line of sight and all that. So I went through my old notes. I was first informed of the issue on December 17th, 2018. December 19th, I replied to Ms. Whittle. January 8th, Ms. Whittle checked on the progress. Replied the same day to find out how well how it was going for me. I replied on the same day that I was scheduling a meeting with the city manager. We didn't have a city manager at the time. We had an interim city manager. So I met with Karen and Bill in early January, January 24th. Ms. Whittle checked back in with me. And I explained that we're having a new city manager and all of this, and I'm trying to go through this quickly. I met with Mr. Stefopoulos on February 1st regarding fence height. The council, he said I had to bring it in front of council for council to make a decision because it would be a huge policy change, or a policy change, and so I wanted to, council charged the planning department with researching the fence height on February 4th, 2019. On March 24th, Ms. Whittle sent me St. John's County verbiage on how they allow 6-foot fence on A1A. I sent that to Mr. Stefopoulos and Mr. Mann on April 1st. Then, actually, to Mr. Stefopoulos on the 1st, to Mr. Mann on April 2nd. April 23rd, 2019, Mr. Mann presented us with a memo. That day or the next day, I met with the city manager and told him how that memo was completely inadequate, and it was what he's been telling me since December 2018. Mr. Stefopoulos said he understood. We didn't hear anything of it again until 2 weeks ago when it was coming in front of us. We didn't know that it went in front of the planning commission. There were no changes to that memo. Moreover, he did no research. So the reason why I'm giving you this timeline is the planning commission recommended denial. The planning commission did not have full research on that. They had Mr. Mann's opinion on this. They didn't have the verbiage from A1A in St. Johns County. They didn't have, it was more of one person wanting this versus a code change. The code change will impact, I went to the property appraiser's office website today, and I didn't have a lot of time, so I can only do 16th Avenue South, my district. 7 residences are on 16th Avenue South, one of which I know that it looks like it's the back of their property, but it's the front of their property. There are 3 properties, and the city had them removed a higher piece because it went above the 4 feet. And that's not even in addition to this. So at the very least, I would say we grant it, but I would really like to see this fully researched, find out how St. Johns County is doing, if they've had any issues with it, and do the research that we had when it came to the bike path, or the cart path, the path up by the gate. Do that research, and then have it go back in front of the planning commission so they can make a sound decision for us to then look at this.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Golden?
I wanted to ask for some clarification from Mr. Mann. In your memo, on the second page, you were talking about you say, given that the property is 54 feet wide, and you do the whole analysis of how much fence there would be and the site triangle and all of that. I was looking at the property appraiser's website, and it looks to me like the right-of-way is about 70 feet, and that the actual front of this property is really close to the house. Is that correct?
That is correct to the latter, to the former about the 70-foot dimension. I'm really not sure what you're referring to.
Well, the distance from A1A to the actual front of the property,
Okay.
the property line, I guess, right? So my question is, when you're in this paragraph where you're talking about the site triangle and all that, are you saying that the site triangle, or you're assuming the fence is going to be in the right-of-way, or are you assuming the fence is going to be on the property line of the owner?
My office cannot permit a fence out in a DOT right of way. The only permit we could issue, which right now there is a permit on file for a 4-foot fence to be in the front yard setback of that property. It is not out by the sidewalk. On the straighter sections of A1A, when you get up towards downtown, the straight sections of A1A, the private property line is the outside line of the sidewalk. But because State Road A1A used to be Ponte Vedra Boulevard going down to the club before the A1A, you want to call it a bypass, was built, A1A used to go to the east, right at the nice Jacksonville Beach sign that we put up at 36. That's where it widens out. This property is on one of those wider sections. So unlike all the other properties on the north side of A1A, their property line is at least 15 feet, I would say, in beside it. I don't know, did she send you pictures? Did y'all see the hedges in the front yard?
No.
No, I didn't know what picture she sent you. But anyway, yes ma'am, their front yard setback is fairly far into the property behind the hedge. So, and the part I was telling you about the driveway setbacks or any driveway site triangles, any driveway in the city is required to have a 10-foot site visibility triangle. Site visibility triangles, you can't have anything higher than 2.5 feet or lower than 8 feet in that site triangle. So my point was, on a 50-foot wide lot, if you've got a 16-foot wide driveway and two 10-foot triangles on either side of it, that's 16, 26, 36 feet, that leaves you a total of 14 feet across the front of the property that you could put a 6-foot fence up.
But if you've got so much right-of-way and the fence isn't going to be placed anywhere close to A1A, do you really have, I mean, it seems like you don't have a site triangle issue at that point.
If the site triangle's there is no issue, but I don't have an administrative way to waive that site triangle requirement. And I'm not sure if you put maybe a rolling 6-foot gate across the driveway, so when you're home and you're not traversing the driveway, you have it closed in, but then you roll it back out. Well, when you would roll it back out, those fence sections would have to be at least 10 feet outside of either driveway.
I guess it just seems to me that if they were to install their fence on their property, it's going to be pretty far off of A1A.
That's
Is that
true,
correct?
it would be, right. It's not, right now, it's just inside the hedges that are along the sidewalk in the DOT right away. And that's just this property. We didn't do the analysis just on this property, though. There are approximately 12 properties that could potentially positively benefit from changing this to allow 6-foot fences on the fronts of residential driveways and commercial districts.
And that's 12 properties, is that?
Residential districts, excuse me.
And that's all along A1A?
Yes, ma'am.
Total of 12 from the north part of Jacks
Yes,
Beach to the
ma'am.
south?
And I think even the last one, if you could drive south on 3rd Street, I think it's 32nd or 33rd Avenue South on the east side of the road, there's a striking house that's got a red standing seam metal roof. Well, as you're driving south, just past that, there's a single 50-foot wide lot that just had a house built on it. That could be positively affected by it. There are a couple of existing older properties on 3rd Street going south of there that also face 3rd Street. They would have that potential, they'd have that availability as well. One of them has a chain link fence, one of them doesn't have anything on it right now. And this property, and I don't believe Mrs. Whittle's neighbor to the north, I don't believe they have fences, but the prior owner of at least her property put in a ligustrum hedge, and it's got to be quite tall over time. And again, that's out in the DOT right away. And I can't speak to the permissibility of any fencing in the right of way. I can only permit fences on private property.
So I did some research, and of course you had already pulled up Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach, and then the Ponte Vedra one. And then I just wanted to add for the record that Key West restricts front yard fences to 4 feet. St. Augustine Beach restricts front yard fences to 42 inches. Hallandale Beach restricts front yard fences to 4 feet. Ormond Beach, 3 feet. And Jacksonville, 4 feet. Ponte Vedra was the only one that I found that would allow front yard fences to be 6 feet. So I just wanted to share that.
No, I understand, and I cannot address the difference in Ponte Vedra regulations versus Jacksonville Beach and Neptune Beach and then Atlantic Beach, but to say that the classification of State Road A1A and Ponte Vedra is rural arterial, given the density of the driveway cuts, as soon as you get to the interchange Butler at 3rd Street, going north all the way through Mayport, it's classified as urban arterial, so it's a different road classification. I have no idea if that had any kind of weighing on St. Charles County's ordinance. And I am aware of the houses they're right on If you come out on Solana Road and you want to turn left or right, come out Solana Road on A1A, if you look across the street to the right, there are a series of about 6 houses that have masonry walls that are 6 feet in height. And I'm not sure what St. Thomas County's site triangle requirements are, but they do that in that location.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments or questions from the council, Mr. Martin? Quick read.
Yes. Again, this is the ordinance is not for one family to put 6 feet. And you said that it's 12 residential properties that would benefit from this change. It's only for A1A. There are no other residential properties on 4-lane roads. And given the increase in traffic and noise and just the quality of life of people who live on A1A, I am in support of this ordinance change.
Any other comments from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Doherty?
No.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
No.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
No.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
No.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. Okay, motion fails. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read ordinance number 2020-8133, second reading, public hearing by title only, please.
An ordinance to amend various articles, divisions, and sections of the City of Jacksonville Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 34 Land Development Code, to provide clarifications, revisions, updates, and reorganization, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, severability, computation, and an effective date.
This ordinance for the amendment of Land Development Code is before this council for a public hearing consideration in its second reading. Under the laws of the state of Florida, an ordinance which changes the actual list of permitted, conditional, or prohibited uses within a zoning category, or which otherwise changes the text of the Land Development Code, is a quasi-legislative proceeding. Quasi-legislative proceeding means that a governing body is acting in its rulemaking capacity. It's the duty of this council to arrive at sound decisions regarding the use of property within the city. This includes receiving citizen input regarding proposed uses within a zoning category. The application has been reviewed by staff and the Planning Commission for consistency with other portions of the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. Council may hear from all interested parties in the legislative determination of an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code. The council's decision on the text amendment application is based on the criteria set forth in section 34-211 of the Land Development Code. Each member of the council has been provided a copy of the criteria. I'll now open the public hearing for ordinance number 2020-8133. We do have one speaker card. It's for Gary Vitale. Gary, if you come forward, give us your name and address once again. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Council members, good evening. Gary Vitale, 725 Bon Air Circle, Jacksonville Beach. I am Vice President of the Ocean Cay Homeowners Association. I'm representing 186 residences in that development. I would like you to consider eliminating or removing the following Land Development Code proposed amendment. Article 8, Section 34-392A1. Air conditioning compressors can only be located in side yards that are at least 7.5 feet wide. The homes in Ocean Cay were permitted, platted, and designed based on 5-foot side yards. And that's what we have existing today. We've had that for 20 years and there's never been a problem related to that. So I'm not sure why this is now being put forth as a change. It is a significant hardship for the owners of those residences because it will require, if they replace their units, require them to move them 30 to 40 feet to the rear of the property, which adds additional costs for compressor line piping, electrical service that has to be provided there. And then on top of it, the efficiencies of the units drop off, which in turn require greater electrical usage and costs in reference to those units. The original design was for those units to be located directly outside where the interior unit is located. That's where most of the units are located in our development. If you move them 30 to 40 feet down the way, they end up being located outside a bedroom window or a kitchen window, and it's really pretty much unsightly. For us, it really doesn't make sense, and I request that you reject this specific item. For those who have more than one unit, this really becomes a hardship item, because if you exceed the 50% requirement, you are definitely pushed into this revision and the additional costs that I mentioned. I've taken a quick trip around and tour. It not only impacts our community, but it also impacts those living in Paradise Key, Ocean Terrace, Riptide. So please reject this specific item. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else from the public like to speak? We close the floor to the public and close the public hearing. Before requesting a motion, the ordinance, beginning with myself, each of the members is requested to indicate for the record both the names of the persons and the substance of any ex parte communications regarding this application. An ex parte communication refers to any meeting or discussion with a person or a citizen who may have an interest in a decision which occurred outside the public hearing process. State for the record, I have none. Mr. Nichols?
I spoke with Mr. Patel after the last city council meeting about this issue.
I spoke with, I think it was email, back and forth with Mr. Baytap about the issue.
I spoke with Mr. Patel over the phone regarding the same issue.
Mr. Patel has very efficient communications. I had a voicemail from him about the air conditioning issue.
I also some correspondence with Mr. Payta, specifically through email.
I spoke to Mr. Payta after the last meeting personally about this issue.
And I'm going to confess that I recall I too spoke with Mr. Paytown. So I guess we all spoke with Mr. Paytown. Okay, let's go ahead and get a motion, please.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2020-8133 as amended, amending the text of Articles 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of Chapter 34 Land Development Code of the Jacksonville Beach Code Ordinances.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. And before opening the floor for discussion or questions by the council, please be reminded that our decision will be based on the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, the staff's report, the recommendation from the Planning Commission, and public input at all meetings. I'm going to open the floor for discussion from debate, and I'm going to start with Mr. Nichols.
This is for the city attorney. My understanding, this was for firefighter safety with the AC unit on the side of the house and for police officers. Is there any additional liability that the city is going to be facing, an exposure, if we do not add this change for the air conditioning units?
No, I don't expect there to be. And my understanding is that this was based on for fire safety, law enforcement response, like you said.
Mr. Mott?
Thank you. After I spoke with Mr. Payta, I looked outside my house, and a couple of years ago, we had the AC unit and the compressor replaced, and talk about cost prohibitive. I'm thinking about how much it cost me to have just the two pieces replaced. I would fall into this. I'd have to get it out and back somewhere. So I move that, and I know I'm not the only one, I walk around, run around, and I'm seeing lots of narrow yards. So I move that we strike section 34-392A1 from the proposed amended ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion about the motion?
I have discussion on that.
Mr. Vogelsang?
Striking out, my intention was going to be to move to change it to 5 feet in line with the setbacks. I mean, if somebody gets a 2.5-foot variance, they shouldn't be entitled to put an air conditioner then unit on the side of the house. So keeping safety in line going forward, I think there should be at least some governance as far as where your air conditioning unit goes as an obstacle on the side of the house. I don't think, and so it would only apply to a current resident that got a variance, side yard variance of some sort. I don't think that would necessarily be anybody. I mean, I brought this up as an issue last meeting because it would apply to me, but obviously my air conditioning units, as I think 99% of everybody else, is 5 feet off the property line because it has to be. So I think that is there for a reason. I don't know why we would eliminate it altogether. So I would vote against the amendment and change it to 5 feet would be my motion.
Okay. The other option, of course, that we can look at is grandfathering people who have air conditioners set up, because I can tell you I'm in the same boat you're in, and all my neighbors are as well. We've got, we're not in compliance. I changed both compressors because I have 2 compressors. It's $12,000. And to move it to the backyard, just it's cost prohibitive. So we have a motion on the floor to strike it all together, but I would also respectfully submit that grandfathering existing properties and anybody under a building permit would be another option if you want to consider that. Ms. Dumont, revisit.
Yes, Mr. Mann, isn't there already, there's already a rule, like a 5-foot setback with the AC units, right?
Bill Mann, Planning Director, yes and no. There is an allowance for AC compressors within required side yards, but they can't extend more than, it's either 30 inches or 36 inches into the yard. So it has to be up against the house, and there's an allowance in the code to let you extend X number of inches into a required side yard setback. And the smallest side yard setback for any residential property in the city is 5 feet. Our RS2 and RS3 zoning districts, which are all west of 3rd Street, have a total required combination 15 feet for side yards, and in no case can it be less than 5 feet. So by code, without a variance, the smallest side yard you could have building by the zoning would be 5 feet. So that would speak to,
I'm sorry.
Bill's amendment? One of the proposed amendments to change the 7.5 feet to 5 feet.
Does that include PUDs, 5-foot setback?
And that gets dicey because you have to actually read the individual setbacks for each PUD. If a PUD is silent to accessory structure setbacks, then we defer to our code. But some, and I can't speak to each, how many PUDs we've got in the city. If some of them have specific requirements that would supersede our standards, then they would. But I can't think of any that have less than 5 feet though. Even Beach Village, the one that's down at Madrid and 3rd Street. I'm pretty, 5 feet's fairly, but anyway, realistically beyond that, the whole intent of it was to address the fire department and our then fire department and our current police department's desire to not impede access to the back sides of the property on the 5-foot side.
Do I still on the floor?
Yes, I'm sorry.
So how does one having a fence work with that?
Well, you put typically,
Because a lot of people have a fence blocking off their air conditioning so people don't have to look at it. That would impede it before the air conditioning unit would impede it.
yes, ma'am, in an emergency situation, it would either, if there was a gate there, it'd be open, or if not, they may take it down, they may knock it down. But knocking down a fence as a barrier is a little bit easier than taking up an AC compressor. Again, I'm just going, this was requested, and it wasn't recent, this was requested probably 3 or 4 years ago. And this is as part, that's why we typified this as the cleanup ordinance for all these items that have been in my code. Hey, next time we open this up, let's see about revisiting that. So that's why it's up right now. But it's not something that just came up.
Can I amend my amendment? To the amendments?
Go ahead.
Did I have my amendment? To grandfather in any current properties from this. Anything that's new or rebuilt would have to follow the 7.5 foot.
Second.
Wait a minute, say that again?
So grandfathering in all current properties.
Yeah.
So what you were saying, grandfathering in any of the current ones, but if a new construction goes up, they would have to have the 7.5 feet.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor and we got a second, Mr. Doherty?
Yes, second.
So we're gonna open the floor for discussion on the new amendment, Mr. Vogelsang.
Our lots are too narrow, and you can never then shift your house. You can never shift your house to one side or the other if you went with 7.5 feet. For instance, my house is 5 foot from the city well and 10 feet from my neighbor's house. I could never have done that if you change it to
7.5 feet. My lot would have to, my house would then have to be in the middle. I don't understand the point of that, so I would not support that amendment.
Okay. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, I think maybe we're overcomplicating things. Can we not just keep it as it is? Because what we're trying to avoid, Bill, is people being financially penalized for code change. So if we could clean up the language, I mean, this is why I seconded your motion, is because I don't think we should be penalizing people. We obviously, you're saying it's 5 now, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you want to change it to 7.5, so what you're saying is keep it at 5 for people that have existing 5 feet setbacks, and for anybody new, 7.5. Is that good for you?
Again,
Does that make it easier, or is it pointless even discussing it?
well, that addresses the concerns about people that would be impinged by having to move an existing unit, yes.
Right, so is that sufficient?
It would handle all new construction.
Right.
But it wouldn't address the problems that were identified as having pushed the desire to have this amendments.
Well, you're talking about the police, the fire
Yes, sir.
department.
And it's a couple of it's from both departments. It wasn't just one person that came up to me one time. A couple of people talked about.
But were they having issues with it? Was there any particular?
No, I don't, sir. I don't remember. It's been at least 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And our fire department's not here, and I know one of the comments did come from one of the men in the fire department. I can't remember his name.
How are you as far as grandfathering things?
We can track it. I mean, that's not a problem to track it. It's however y'all feel you want to dispose of it.
Still pretty unclear. Thank you.
Ms. Hoffman?
Mine was more of a point of order because the original amendment was to strike section 1A. And then the amendment to that amendment was to grandfather people in, but if the original amendment is to strike, then there's nothing to grandfather them
You're right,
into.
we didn't vote on that.
We didn't vote on that, but then my second point of order on that was that the language for the First Amendment was to strike 1A, but there's more in 1A than just the air conditioning. So you've got sidewalk and detached structures. So are we gonna throw that out too?
No,
Actually,
it was A1, not 1A. So it's specifically section 34-392A1.
Okay, it's all...
It's only about the compressor.
And it does not, through the chair, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't
It also, the only additional, it's on page 10 of 12 of the ordinance. The entire section 1A is restated just so you can see the context of the proposed amendment. The proposed amendment is simply adding yard of 7.5 feet width or greater. That's all the amendment is. So without that, if you don't read that, if you read the rest of that sentence, it just says may be located in any required side yard. And the amendment is of 7.5 feet width or greater.
I would support the original amendment to strike that because I just am not convinced on the safety issue because fences, gates, if we were doing something consistently to provide access to backyards for law enforcement and public safety, then that would be different, but this is one specific appliance that is just one of many things that could be blocking access to the backyard. So I support the initial amendment as made.
Okay, I'm going to close the queue for just a second. Let's go back to the original amendment. Is there any additional discussion on the original amendment? Ms. Golding?
So point of order, Ms. Mott probably should have withdrawn her First Amendment and then made a Second Amendment.
Right. Well,
So,
just don't worry about the Second Amendment right now. I'm talking about the First Amendment.
okay, so we're going back to the First Amendment.
Right.
Okay, I would support the First Amendment. I want to ask Mr. Stefopoulos to put his 2 cents into this mix because I spoke with him prior to the meeting and he apparently had spoken with, I know we don't have our chief of police here and we don't have Mr. Shadow here, but you had spoken to both of them and I think it would be relevant for you to share what you discussed.
I'll call on the city manager when it's his turn. Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Nichols?
Same here, and even if we strike it this time, I think if there's overwhelming statistical evidence that it is a severe safety issue for our first responders, I think we can come back and add it at that point. At this point in time, I just don't It's hard for me to, with all the other things that can be there, it's hard for me to think that this one issue is that critical of a safety issue for our first responders, which is really a high priority for me, but it's hard for me to see that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Stefopoulos.
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to speak to both Chief Smith as well as Fire Marshal Shada regarding this issue. Needless to say, neither of them were the chiefs of their respective departments at the time that this issue was brought to Mr. Mann from a public safety perspective, but there were two interesting conversations nonetheless. The first with Mr. Shada. Number one, if you took a look at the statistics of how many fires we actually have within the city in terms of total call response, the percentage of calls that are fire-related are in the single digits. It's extremely small. So the issue of a side yard AC unit being a serious issue to fight a fire is extremely rare or minimal at best. The chances are if you come up to a property and there's a fire, you're going through the front door, you're going through the front windows, and if you're going on the side of the properties, you may encounter a locked gate, you may encounter cinder blocks, you may encounter ladders, pool storage materials, whatever the resident has put on the side of the property. So that was deemed pretty much a non-issue. As Councilor Nichols said, if JFRD is finding this is an issue within our jurisdiction, I'm sure at some point in the future they will let us know that it's an issue as they respond to fires in our community. With regards to the police department, Chief Smith gave me that smirk that I think you've all seen him make before, and he said, my officers aren't going to be running down side yards chasing after bad guys. We're going to release the canines. And then he thought about it and said, if there is an AC unit and it's dark, they'll probably trip on that first and the dog will catch them easier. So with that being said, we have taken a second look at this and deemed that the public safety issue that may have been perceived as an issue several years ago is really minimal at best. My suggestion to you would stick with the original motion that's on the floor, which is to pull this item out from the ordinance. And if at some point in the future staff feels that it's warranted to come back in some way, shape, or form, we would bring it back to you at that point in time.
Okay, thank you. For procedural sake, are you comfortable withdrawing your second motion?
It's gone.
Thank you. So now we're back to the first motion, and we do have a second. I see no other discussion. So, Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Devont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, and now we're on to the original motion, which is for the ordinance itself. I don't see, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Devont?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, and Madam Clerk, could you please read ordinance number 2020-8135, second reading, public hearing by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 34, Article 7, Division 2, Section 34-346, Industrial District I-1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to add mobile food vendors to permitted uses in Industrial District I-1 zoning districts, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict with the ordinance, severability, codification, and an effective date.
This ordinance for the amendment of the Land Development Code is before this council for a public hearing and consideration on its second reading. Under the laws of the state of Florida, an ordinance which changes the actual use of permitted conditional or permitted uses, my eyes are getting blurry. I want to start that sentence over again. Under the laws of the state of Florida, an ordinance which changes the actual list of permitted, conditional, or prohibited uses within a zoning category, or which otherwise changes the text of the Land Development Code, is a quasi-legislative proceeding. Quasi-legislative proceeding means that the governing body is acting in its rulemaking capacity. It is the duty of the council to arrive at sound decisions regarding the use of the property within the city. This includes receiving citizen input regarding the proposed uses within the zoning category. The application has been reviewed by the staff and the Planning Commission for consistency with other portions of the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. Council may hear from all interested parties in the legislative determination of an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code. Council's decision on the text amendment application is based on the criteria set forth, section 34-211 of the Land Development Code. Each member of the council has been provided a copy of the criteria. I'll now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2020-8135. Are there any members in the audience that would like to speak? All righty, closing the public hearing. Requesting the motion on the ordinance before requesting a motion on the ordinance, beginning with myself, each of the members is requested to indicate for the record both the names of persons and the substance of any ex parte communications regarding this application. An ex parte communication refers to any meeting or discussion with a person or citizen who may have an interest in this decision which occurred outside of the public hearing process. I have none. Mr. Nichols.
I've spoken to the mobile food vending vehicle owner that is planning on being located at that probably 20 times related to this issue, and just directed them that, the city was looking at it.
Thank you, sir.
None.
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 Having none.
None.
Thank you. Okay, request a motion.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2020-8135, amending Chapter 34 of the Land Development Code, Article 7, Division 2, Section 34-346, to add mobile food vendors to the list of permitted uses in industrial I-1 zoning districts.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Before opening the floor for discussion or questions by the council, please be reminded that our decision will be based on criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, the staff's report, and the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the public input in all hearings. And open the floor to the council, but first I'd like to ask Mr. Stephanopoulos just to give a very brief summary of this second reading.
Yes, this item basically will allow food trucks to go into industrial properties. As had been discussed, I believe, at the first hearing. That's something that just wasn't contemplated at the time that this ordinance was brought forward. The original food truck ordinance was brought forward. So this will basically allow them into those areas, which are predominantly in the west side of the city.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any debate by the council before we vote? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldie?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. Meeting's adjourned. Have a great night. Thanks for being here.